Tonight, an ice-fueled rampage ended by a police officer's bullet. A knife-wielding man says sorry to the officer who tasered and then shot him outside Campbelltown train station. The Ruby Princess strikes again, another life lost from the infected cruise ship as the virus once again spreads within our community. China's beef that's costing Aussie farmers dearly, the threat to jobs and exports from a brewing coronavirus trade war. Bring back the beers, why our pubs might be back in business sooner than we'd hoped. A road rage duel at high speed in our southwest. Police investigate a terrifying race between dangerous drivers near Campbelltown. Authorities say this is becoming more common. And later in sport, a fine mess for Nathan Cleary. The Penrith star in trouble again with police over his social distancing shame.
This is 10 News First Sydney with Sandra Sully.
Good evening. Footage has been released of the moment a man was shot by police at Campbelltown train station. Robert Hampton was brandishing a huge knife while on a drug-fuelled rampage, even shaking off attempts to bring him down with non-lethal force. When that didn't work, one officer reached for his gun. And a warning, some viewers may find scenes in this story quite confronting.
It's difficult to watch. A police officer forced to shoot a man in front of horrified commuters at a busy train station. Robert Hampton survived the bullet wound and now says he's sorry. It started when police saw Hampton running through the gates without a train ticket and chased him. He was on parole at the time, high on ice and carrying a 30-centimetre knife. As he lunged at the officers, one tasered him, but it failed, before a single gunshot wound to the stomach brought him to the ground. Hampton has since pleaded guilty to several charges and faced a sentencing hearing today where he apologised to those who witnessed it and the officer who shot him, telling the court, "I know it wouldn't have been a good thing for him to have to shoot me. I'm sorry he had to do it." He claimed he'd been hearing voices at the time telling him people were after him, but never intended to hurt anyone. The court heard Hampton spent 3 months in hospital after the shooting and needed surgery to repair his injuries. His defence lawyer argued he deserves leniency because he still suffers from the ongoing effects and wears a colostomy bag, which is difficult to manage in jail. He'll learn his fate on Friday, but the judge has warned he shouldn't expect a light sentence. Leah Harris for 10 News First.
The Ruby Princess has claimed another life with the announcement this morning that an 81-year-old passenger has lost her fight with COVID-19. Of the 98 deaths in Australia, the cruise ship cluster is now linked to 20 of them, with another 2 victims overseas. After the high of yesterday's 0 cases, today in New South Wales there were 6 confirmed, 2 of which were linked to the other deadly outbreak to hit Sydney Newmarch House aged care home near Penrith. A sobering reminder of the dangers we face as Sydney prepares for restrictions to ease.
They're open for takeaway, food and alcohol, but for this pub and others like it, the COVID-19 shutdown has hit hard.
We've probably lost about 95% of income based on these weeks last year.
From Friday, restaurants and cafes will be allowed to open their doors for up to 10 people to sit in. But right now, pubs and clubs are still excluded.
I don't understand quite the difference of what they're trying to achieve. Are the patrons at the restaurants going to be drinking water while they have their meals?
The Hotels Association is now pushing to have our watering holes reopen with the restaurants.
The hospitality industry, we don't go into hibernation. The cost of even staying closed has been estimated to be between $30,000 to $35,000 per month.
And they may get a concession.
If the health advice supports it in certain circumstances, we'll be happy to proceed on that basis.
But with some restrictions easing, the government is warning that we will see infection rates rise. And they say we need to strike a balance between getting the economy moving and avoiding a second wave of infections. New South Wales today recorded another 6 cases, bringing the total to 3,059. Our death toll now stands at 47 after a passenger from the Ruby Princess, an 81-year-old woman, succumbed to the virus.
Every time someone passes away, every one of us, our hearts bleed for those families.
But the Health Minister says he doesn't expect to be called to give evidence to the Special Commission.
I had no part in making any of the decisions. In fact, I was only made aware of the issues 2 days after the event.
The fact he didn't know about it makes it worse for him. We have a government who took their eye off the ball in the middle of a pandemic.
But with the death toll still mounting, the questions surrounding its handling only increase. Ursula Hager for 10 News First.
We're faced with the threat of a trade war with China tonight, with Beijing angry over Australia's role in pushing for an international COVID inquiry. Officially, the government says bans on our beef shipments have nothing to do with it. But as National Affairs Editor Hugh Riminton reports, our farmers are being caught in the crossfire.
There's trouble in the cattle towns. A quarter of Australian beef exports go straight to China. Much of that trade is now blocked over what the Chinese claim publicly is a hygiene issue.
The economy would be devastated.
But the only dirt is in the politics.
Our farmers and exporters certainly haven't done anything wrong there.
The Trade Minister has been busily playing down any link between China's sudden concern with our beef hygiene and their far louder concerns at Australia's demand for a full international inquiry into the origins of the coronavirus pandemic.
Chinese officials say both privately and publicly that these are unconnected matters.
But China previously warned of retaliation. And its foreign ministry now accuses Australia of using the epidemic to damage international cooperation. Our grain industry, wine, seafood and others fear a full-on trade war.
This is really serious.
Australia is not backing down, nor is the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He's been on the phone to Foreign Minister Marise Payne, reinforcing the need for the rule of law, transparency and accountability. And adding a little Queensland fuel to the fire, the federal MP George Christensen. He's demanding China's ambassador to Australia front the Parliamentary Trade Committee that Christensen chairs to explain himself. The opposition says it's time people calm down.
It'd be pretty handy if we heard more from the Foreign Minister and less from people like George Christensen.
The government and the opposition agree on the need for an independent global inquiry, but weakening the Prime Minister's position is his refusal to release, under freedom of information laws, the briefings he received in January as the virus crisis was looming up out of nowhere.
You're asking the Chinese government to be very open, yet the Prime Minister, or in fact PM and the C, are refusing to publicly release what happened here in Australia. Can you see the hypocrisy in that?
I see no hypocrisy with that whatsoever.
It is a gift to China at a time when all we want to send them is our exports. Hugh Riminton for 10 News First.
The Prime Minister sounded almost upbeat today about COVID-19, but it's hard to see why. His Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, may have tested negative after spluttering through a speech yesterday. But today he copped a barrage of questions about the JobKeeper payments.
After yesterday's bad news economic update, today the PM used question time to focus on the good news coming out of the COVID crisis, beyond the Treasurer not catching it.
I have confidence in this country and I believe this country will bounce back.
The government staying glass half full.
With the success that Australians have been able to achieve.
Times of adversity, Australians often shine.
The JobKeeper package, according to Ashley Malcolm, has helped save their business.
But the opposition was having none of it, zeroing in on problems with the package.
Can the Treasurer explain why a university student working a $100 shift per week receives the full $1,500 JobKeeper wage subsidy?
What?
But their full-time university tutor with 3 kids to support is not eligible?
The Treasurer might have preferred to self-isolate than have to try to answer that.
Can the Treasurer explain why an 18-year-old living at home who's been working a shift a week at a McDonald's franchise receives the full $1,500 JobKeeper wage subsidy?
No way!
But a full-time Australian worker at Donata, providing catering services to Qantas with a mortgage to repay, is not eligible.
That's even harder to explain. While the COVID crisis remains front and centre, there are signs lingering scandals from before it started are back on the agenda. Sports rorts reared its ugly head again, following suggestions the PM may have authorised parts of the program.
The only authority sought from the Prime Minister's office and from myself, Mr Speaker, was in relation to announcements.
The PM only offering marketing tips, leaving questions Scott Morrison would rather avoid.
It's good to see that the Canberra Press Gallery is back to politics as usual with Parliament coming back. Yeah, thank you. I've answered your question. I said no.
Well, Network political editor Peter Van Onselen joins me now. Peter, it kind of felt like Canberra was getting back to normal today.
That's right, Sandra. The warm and cuddly feeling of how they were all getting on singing Kumbaya, that's long gone now. You saw there the contestation in relation to sports rorts. I wouldn't be surprised if Angus Taylor's use of a fake document comes up tomorrow in question time. And really, the strong area of criticism from Labor was around the JobKeeper package, as you would have seen there as well. And I tell you what, there's very little chance that they're going to let go on this unless changes are made to, in their view at least, make it much fairer than it currently is.
All right, Peter, thank you. The man accused of the homophobic murder of American Scott Johnson in Manly will remain behind bars for at least a month. But his arrest, decades in the making, was not just a step towards justice for Scott's family, but also for an entire community.
For years, police dismissed Scott Johnson's murder, killed during a shameful time in Sydney's history when gay men were attacked for sport. But today, an apology and recognition.
I do think the plight of young, particularly gay men in Sydney, probably around the world, was a very difficult one. And not only were they let down by police, I think they were let down by the community.
It was December 10, 1988, and the American national had that day completed his PhD in mathematics before he was forced off the cliff at Manly's North Head.
And the murder of Scott Johnson was offensive in so many ways. It was offensive because he was a man who was at the beginning of what could have been a very promising life.
A stolen life that his brother Steve persistently sought justice for, even offering $1 million of his own money to match the state government's reward for information, which in the last 24 hours has proven to be key to the arrest of 49-year-old Scott White.
One witness on conviction that would be eligible for part of the reward.
And it seems it wasn't just the Johnsons who were waiting for this arrest, given the now accused murderer's reaction.
It wasn't one of surprise.
With White remaining behind bars for the immediate future, police hope this arrest will give the 400 families of victims of cold case murders hope that justice can be served.
Please know that New South Wales Police will never give up on you.
At least, not anymore. Kimberly Pratt for 10 News First.
Police are hunting a driver after a truckie and a ute were filmed locked in a high-speed duel. The pictures show the pair risking the lives of everyone on the road near Campbelltown and culminating in the truck ramming the ute as it tried to hammer past in the breakdown lane. Now, authorities say this is not an isolated incident.
Heading south out of Sydney on the Hume Highway at 100 kilometres an hour, truckies and tradies dies with death. Watch as a smaller truck in the right lane refuses to move over. A frustrated tradie then tries a risky move, attempting to overtake in the breakdown lane, but the truck bumps him with almost catastrophic consequences.
But doing things like that is just stupidity. Everyone that sees this video will be shocked as to what's just gone on our roads.
The truckie whose dash cam recorded the whole thing was so shaken, he contacted police.
A truck driver has sent this video to us in the hope that we can do something about it, that we can prosecute these drivers. It's wrong, it definitely is wrong. When somebody's passing like that, if they're getting past you, as soon as they get their cab in front of you, back off a bit, just let them get going.
We showed the frightening footage to other regular users of this stretch of highway who were appalled but not surprised.
It's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Madness, isn't it?
Crazy. You see a bit of that, don't you?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff travelling up and down, mate.
The truck eventually yields to common sense and allows the tradies to get past.
Well, as you can see, this is an extremely busy part of the Hume Highway where these trucks are going very fast where this incident occurred.
This truck driver will certainly allege in the smaller truck doing the wrong thing, trying to block this other ute from going around. That's suicidal, isn't it?
And we have some breaking news. Police have arrested the driver of the Pantech truck about an hour ago. They're currently speaking with that driver. They attended an address in St Peters this afternoon, and the driver's arrested. He's currently speaking with them. Charges will shortly be laid. They're still looking for the driver of the ute. Sandra?
Steve Hart reporting there. Thank you. Well, Sydney siders may notice some smoke over the next few days as the RFS conducts hazard reduction burns around the region. First up, Canoelands in the city's north, where several hundred hectares of bush are being burnt. Although the fires don't pose any threat to residents, anyone with asthma or other respiratory conditions is cautioned to reduce outdoor activities during periods of heavy smoke. Penrith star Nathan Cleary must have thought his social distancing troubles were over until news of new police action broke this afternoon. Matt Burke joins me now with the latest on this story. Matt, what happened?
Well, it continues, Sandra, that's for sure. Cleary's clean-cut image is very tarnished tonight. He was originally cleared of breaking coronavirus rules until it became apparent he hadn't told the truth. Emma Lawrence is live at NRL HQ. And Emma, this saga, I'm sure Cleary wants to see the back end of it.
You could say that again, Matt. This saga really has become far more dramatic than it needed to be. Originally, what happened was some photos emerged on Anzac Day of Nathan Cleary with some girls at his house. But he told the NRL it was a surprise visit. I didn't know they were coming over and I didn't know I was being photographed. So he got a very minor fine from the NRL and escaped a fine from police. Then at a later stage, some TikTok videos emerged with him dancing with the women. That suggested, well, hey, you knew you were being filmed and maybe it wasn't a surprise visit. So yesterday, the NRL handed down a new punishment, $30,000 and 2 matches. That prompted then the police to reopen their investigation. Turns out there were even more lies and Cleary wasn't even at his house. He had left his house to go and see those girls, which meant he had broken those rules with non-essential travel. So I think, Matt, you don't have to be an expert to work out the moral of the story is come clean from the beginning. The latest issue from the police is a $1,000 fine. So Nathan Cleary, no doubt, very embarrassed and regretting this whole incident.
Thank you, Emma. That's right. Come clean from the beginning or just don't do it at all. Sandra?
That's a word of advice indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Stay with us after the break. A new health boss appointed to help Australia deal with the looming crisis. More than 1,000 of our frontline nurses given an extra boost in the battle against COVID-19. And Sydney's rental market in freefall, what it means for landlords and tenants. Plus, the royal family makes a special call to some Aussie health heroes.
Do you want to say hello to your little boy?
He looks like me.
My baby could be anywhere. Do something about it.
The police have made the call to release this CCTV footage to the media.
Well, that's a good thing, right?
We don't want her to panic.
The secrets she keeps tonight after MasterChef.
Health authorities are investigating if a rare and deadly disease in children, potentially linked to coronavirus, could spread here to Australia. The push for more information comes as more and more students go back to school across the state.
First reports on the staggered school return and it's an A+, which comes with a real bonus.
But the feedback we've had so far has been very positive and we anticipate that after next week there is a strong chance that the vast majority of students will be back to face-to-face full-time.
Back to full-time school in just over a week. Challenging for some, but a big relief to most.
He doesn't like online learning. He much prefers to be at school with his friends.
Yeah, like we play handball outside.
But schools need parents to play ball too, as they juggle fluctuating student numbers and social distancing needs. Some principals sent gentle reminders. A great deal of planning has gone into this. Please contact the school if there is a need to increase your child's number of days. We're not back to normal just yet.
I fear that some people in our community now think that because we're doing so well, that this is the end of it. Well, quite possibly it's not.
Our Prime Minister has ordered an urgent investigation into the Kawasaki disease, which only affects children. A similar COVID-19 linked illness has proved fatal overseas.
Because it's so rare, it's unlikely to be seen in Australia, but we've got alerts on it and we're clearly watching it.
Recognition of this syndrome does not at this stage change any of our health advice about going back to school.
Ali Donaldson for 10 News First.
Now to one of the first industries impacted by social distancing restrictions, and the events sector is still counting the cost of cancelled or postponed meetings. The economic hit to this state alone is calculated to be in the billions of dollars. Despite this, local businesses are being made to jump through hoops to get any help.
It's usually one of the busiest buildings in the city, hosting more than 700 events each year. But everything is very slow at the International Convention Centre right now.
We've lost all of our events well into the future, as has every venue in Australia, every venue in the world actually.
It's not just conventions, meetings and expos that are gone, but the serious money they generate too.
Just under $900 million into the New South Wales and Sydney economy. Now, of course, all of that has stopped.
Nationally, the damage is in the tens of billions. 96% of all business events have been cancelled.
Our industry is worth $35.7 billion to the Australian economy, and from the 13th of March, when the ban on mass gatherings was implemented, our industry ceased to exist.
Approximately 90,000 jobs have been lost. While the number of events cancelled and jobs lost is enough to make your head spin, according to state government guidelines, the events industry in New South Wales has not been highly impacted by coronavirus. In the eligibility criteria for $10,000 support grants, the government lists 87 business sectors impacted by the pandemic. And while it does include beer manufacturing, brothel keeping and prostitution services, as well as watch and jewellery retailing, the events industry isn't on the list.
For it not to be on that list is quite critical.
The government says performing arts venues and caterers are included and other industries can apply, but they do have to provide extra proof that they're suffering.
I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to know that small businesses in the event industry have been devastated by this pandemic, and they face the toughest road to recovery.
In the meantime, some events, even awards shows, are going virtual. One ray of hope in a very dark time. Lachlan Kennedy for 10 News First.
Hundreds of New South Wales nurses have been given advanced training to help tackle COVID-19. The $3 million initiative has seen 1,500 health workers given intensive care unit training. It's part of an $800 million cash splash to boost ICUs right across the state.
It gives us new skills and new knowledge that we wouldn't have otherwise had, and it relieves some of those fears and anxieties about the potential for being put into an ICU, having to look after a ventilated patient who's critically unwell.
The government has so far doubled the state's ICU capacity and is now aiming to quadruple it. Hovering above with the latest on Sydney's traffic conditions tonight is Marina Ivanovic. Marina, you're over the M5. How is it below?
It's extremely slow tonight, Sandra. Through Moorebank is where we're looking at the moment for the M5 heading outbound, approaching Moorebank Avenue. And these are all leftover delays from an earlier multi-vehicle accident through Edmondson Park for the Hume motorway. It was heading northbound, but we had onlookers southbound, which has caused these outbound delays. As you can see, all lanes really struggling back through to Padstow, and due to peak hour traffic, Sandra, it doesn't look like it's going to clear anytime soon. I'm Marina Ivanovic in the Car City Traffic Chopper.
Let's get the latest on our weather now with Tim Bailey. Tim, you're sniffing a wee change might be in the air.
Yeah, it's hump day, Souls, and the blue sky ran into a speed bump today as well. And there is a little bit of precipitation around tomorrow and Thursday, but we'll try and clear that up for your weekend. Let's hit the Daily Bailey weather wall. Let's have a look at how Narooma has just sparkled all week long under that blue sky. Beautiful stuff. Thank you, John Morgan Photography. That'll be back for the weekend. It's a promise. Temperature-wise today across Sydney looked like this. 12 the minimum, 19, a little chillier under cloud cover, currently 17 degrees. The rest of New South Wales, it was a bit shivery. 17 Broken Hill, Dubbo 19, just 12 at Orange, 18 Tamworth, 23 Coffs Harbour, the high 25 at Murwillumbah and -3 the low at Thredbo. Sydney super suburbs weren't all that sensational today. Richmond just 18, Parramatta 19, like Wise, Bankstown and Mascot did 20 degrees. A shower on the way, but some blue sky for Saturday and Sunday, I promise.
Thank you, Tim. Stay with us after the break. The areas where COVID-19 cases have spiked 1,000% in just 1 week. Plus the 113-year-old who took on the virus and won. And some of the world's biggest celebrities held to ransom after a cyber hack attack. Let's get to today's petrol prices around the suburbs of Sydney. Today we found the cheapest was 97 cents in Yagoona. The average price across the city now $1.14. And we're being told those prices are set to increase later this week.
Car City is making it easier for you to safely buy your next vehicle 7 days a week. Wander comfortably through 10 acres of vehicles while safely practicing social distancing, or find the car you want online and we'll bring it to you. Carlisle Avenue, Minchinbury. carcity.com.au.
Grill, sausage bake, rolled, pan-fried or in a stew. You'll love all the things our sausages can do. The British Sausage Ham and Bacon Company. Australian made, the British way.
This Saturday with Sportsbet, get the best payout across all 3 tabs with top-toed exotics. Nail a quinella, trifecta or even a quaddie and you'll get the biggest return. Top-toed exotics from Sportsbet.
Woolworths online shopping is back for all customers. We have thousands of extra delivery and pickup windows now open to serve even more customers. Visit woolworths.com.au and start shopping today.
Someone has taken my baby.
The police have made the call to release this CCTV footage.
Well, that's a good thing, right?
We don't want her to panic.
The secret she keeps on 10 continues tonight after MasterChef.
America's top doctor has again contradicted President Trump, telling a Senate hearing that their corona outbreak is not yet under control, with the death toll topping 82,000 people. Anthony Fauci also warned of serious consequences from reopening too early as new hotspots emerge right around the country. Here's our US correspondent, Eamon Ashton-Atkinson.
A warning from America's top infectious disease doctor: don't reopen too soon.
I feel if that occurs, there is a real risk that you will trigger an outbreak that you may not be able to control.
Dr. Anthony Fauci under quarantine himself, contradicting President Donald Trump's claim that the worst has passed.
We have met the moment, and we have prevailed.
It was an unusual Senate hearing, dogs and all, though the Republicans were doing all the hounding.
And as much as I respect you, Dr. Fauci, I don't think you're the end all. I don't think you're the one person that gets to make a decision.
Fauci bit back.
I'm a scientist, a physician, and a public health official. I give advice according to the best scientific evidence. We don't know everything about this virus, and we really better be very careful.
And this is what the evidence says. New hotspots are sprouting up. In Tennessee and Kansas, some counties have recorded a 1,000% spike in a week, while LA is listening, extending its lockdown for 3 more months. New York City may never be the same again too. Today, executives at 3 of the largest commercial tenants, JP Morgan Chase, Barclays and Morgan Stanley, all indicated that it's highly unlikely any of their workers will ever return to their Manhattan offices. Why pay rent when working from home works? Great for companies, terrible for restaurants and bars that'll depend on the after-work trade to have a future. Eamon Ashton-Atkinson for 10 News First, New York.
Hollywood A-listers like Madonna, Lady Gaga and Elton John may have had their private information leaked after hackers targeted a top US law firm. Cyber sleuths claim they have stolen nearly 800 gigabytes of confidential data from Grubman, Shire, Marsalis and Sachs, a New York firm that works with dozens of celebrities. 2 screenshots supposedly linked to the attack show a Madonna contract and folders named after high-profile clients. Babies, mothers and nurses have been killed in a day of devastating violence in Afghanistan. In the capital, several gunmen stormed a maternity ward, killing 16 people, including newborns, and injuring 15 others. Further east, a suicide bomber targeted a funeral, killing at least 24 mourners. The attacks dealt another blow to the US Taliban peace deal as they prompted Afghan government forces to resume offensive operations against the militant group. A great-grandmother, believed to be Spain's oldest woman, has beaten COVID-19. Maria Brañas is 113 years old and was diagnosed with coronavirus in March. She only suffered mild symptoms and, after weeks in isolation, has now made a full recovery. Born in 1907, Maria has lived through the 1918 Spanish flu and both world wars. The royal family has sent well wishes and thanks to nurses all around the world to mark International Nurses Day. Among them were 3 health workers from remote Queensland who received a very special video call.
Starting with the Queen herself.
Good afternoon, Your Majesty. Good afternoon. This is rather an important day. Oh, it is. It's quite special, the International Nurses Day.
The royals hit the phones to say thanks.
It's amazing that you're able to still continue the support and the care that you would normally provide, even under these really difficult circumstances.
And I want to wish Happy International Nurses Day for all of us.
Nurses throughout the Commonwealth joined in video calls with the royals, including a group working in Mornington, around 1,800 kilometres northwest of Brisbane.
We'd love to hear what it's like on the ground.
It's been as hectic as it has been around the world, I would say.
In the emergency department, obviously stepping up our protocols and guidelines.
I hope you're feeling some of the love as well.
I'm feeling the love.
This army nurse in Cyprus nearly landed his former partner the gig of a lifetime.
My ex-wife's a school teacher, so she's keeping him busy.
Oh, they're in good hands. Be careful, she's about to be recruited from... I'd quite like her to come and help you.
The calls were a much-needed morale booster for those on the front line of the coronavirus fight.
Thank you all so much for the diligence and courage that you have shown.
And will no doubt continue to show. Joe Hill for 10 News First.
Stay with us after the break. The areas hit hardest by a Sydney rental glut, what it means for prices, and the dramatic chase that ended right on police's doorstep.
Now or later on your insurance?
Later.
Buy a home or car insurance policy and Amy Flexi Premiums lets you vary your excess to save now or later. Choose a higher excess to save now or choose a lower excess to save at claim time.
You're with Amy.
Let's do it, baby.
It's on, mate.
Make this Saturday one to remember. Get best tote on all exotics on every race across all Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Adelaide races. PointsBet.
Introducing the all-new Palmy Classics range at Subway. Chicken palmy with rich marinara sauce, chicken and ham palmy with smoked leg ham, and the chicken and pepperoni palmy, all topped with double melty mozzarella cheese. Grab a palmy today at Subway.
Tonight's top stories. A court has been shown the moment police gunned down a man who lunged at an officer with a knife while high on ice at Campbelltown. An 81-year-old woman has become the latest victim of the Ruby Princess cruise ship. And a truck driver has handed himself into police over a high-speed alleged road rage clash at Menangle. Police are still looking for another driver. Almost 89,000 homes and apartments across the country are sitting empty without a tenant. The latest snapshot of the rental market actually named Sydney as worst hit as COVID-19 forces a mass exodus of people living and working in the inner city.
A sign of the times, a major correction in the rental market.
What's happening now is great for tenants, but this is an absolute disaster for landlords.
The residential rental vacancy rate jumped to 2.6% in April. The figure is higher in Sydney, with almost 29,000 properties empty. And it's the CBD that's really feeling it. Its vacancy rate has blown out to a record high.
Driven by Airbnb properties moving to the longer-term leasing market, a drop-off in demand with people who were once living and working in the cities now moving back to perhaps their parents' homes. The complete drop-off in domestic business arrivals as well as short-term international arrivals.
Asking rents across the country are down more than 3% compared to a year ago. In the past month, the asking rent for a house in Sydney dropped to around $647 a week. Units are also cheaper. Making economic predictions during a pandemic with no end date is hard, but researchers do say our rental market will continue to be impacted while our borders remain shut. So agents are expanding marketing.
We have seen a spike in the number of just general Sydney residents who have previously not looked at these areas.
But some of their landlords have deferred mortgages.
Most property owners in the CBD, from our experience, are long-term holders, and in most cases they have a little bit more wealth.
Wealth that's being eroded by COVID-19. Gillian Bowen for 10 News First.
Some potential positive news, though, on the job market today. Looking at the number of ads being posted online, there has been some recovery. There have been 55,000 advertisements this week, with the most growth being in real estate, retail and hospitality, compared to 48,000 the previous week. But before we get ahead of ourselves, it is still well below early March levels of around 150,000. A bizarre high-speed chase came to a crashing end in Adelaide overnight. A couple who'd allegedly abducted and stabbed a 70-year-old woman after carjacking a chauffeur-driven car, then led officers on a pursuit across the city and the suburbs. The man and woman then made a stop at a friend's house, who was shocked to discover the bleeding and injured woman. He says his mate had come past his house at the weekend and was behaving very strangely.
He came to me with some strange story, offered me money to take the spell of him. I believe that he believes in the black magic or something.
The pair was arrested when their car with a spiked tyre crashed into police headquarters in Adelaide CBD. The injured woman, believed to be a relative, is now being treated in hospital. A final check now on peak hour. Hello, Marina, once again, and it's quite busy tonight on the Ryde Bridge now.
Yes, Sandra, we've got lots of traffic lights on the approach to the Ryde Bridge, and that's making it an intermittent flow of traffic congestion over the Ryde Bridge. At the moment, it's looking good in both directions, but just before was looking quite busy, but all still flowing nicely. But the main focus tonight is on the Eastern Distributor. We've got a truck broken down heading southbound through Darlinghurst. It's sitting in lane 2, and we've got extensive delays back into the Harbour Tunnel and onto the Warringah Freeway. I'm Marina Ivanovic in the Car City Traffic Chopper.
Now, coming up here on 10 News, the worst case scenario for our housing market has been revealed, and it's bad. The huge price plunge tipped by one of the big banks thanks to the pandemic. The full details and what that means, that's coming up a little later in tonight's bulletin. Matt Burke is back now with more news and sport. Matt, more dramas for Nathan Cleary.
Yeah, that's right, Sandra. Good evening. The TikTok saga has taken another twist. We'll give you those details after the break. Plus, testing for COVID-19 begins for every player in the AFL to get the season back on track. And is this an Aussie in line for the most sought-after seat in Formula One?
Car City is making it easier for you to safely buy your next vehicle 7 days a week. Wander comfortably through 10 acres of vehicles while safely practicing social distancing, or find the car you want online and we'll bring it to you. Carlisle Avenue, Minchinbury. carcity.com.au.
For employees, it will allow millions of Australians to keep their job, including those who've been stood down. To find out more, visit australia.gov.au, authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
Get AHM hospital cover from only $15.75 a week. Yay. It's that easy, so you can get back to doing whatever it is you like to do. Even that. Find out more and join AHM Direct today. AHM, the simple bit.
Let's do it, baby. It's on, mate.
Make this Saturday one to remember. Get best tote on all exotics on every race across all Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Adelaide races. PointsBet.
It's the Mystery Box with a twist.
No! What the hell?
Tonight on 10.
Good evening. As we go to where the ARL Commission is debating if Top Flight Rugby League will go back to one referee. Chairman Peter V'landys wants one whistleblower. Club coaches want to stay with two. Meantime, that TikTok scandal just won't go away for Panthers star Nathan Cleary, now fined by police.
A dance Nathan Cleary will never forget for all the wrong reasons. The Panthers star originally escaped a fine because he said these girls came to his house. Turns out he lied. He left home to see them, so police have now fined him $1,000. That's on top of the NRL's punishment, $30,000 and 2 matches. Josh Addo-Carr will fight his fines for breaking social distancing rules. Still facing firearms charges, the Fox copped a $1,000 fine from police and $20,000 from the NRL for that camping trip with Latrell Mitchell. The Storm star will argue he was on private property and had extenuating circumstances.
The penalty imposed against our client on a number of fronts is clearly disproportionate to the conduct that is said to have taken place.
Meantime, the Bunnies have thrown their arms around James Roberts, who checked into rehab for a 3rd time.
I'm not too worried about the James Roberts, the football player at the moment. He can take as much time as he needs before he needs to come back. And once he comes back, he'll be welcome with open arms. And he's a big part of this side, so I'll be happy whenever he's ready to come back.
Anti-vaxxers Bryce Cartwright and Brian Kelly are apparently considering legal action. They could be rubbed out for the rest of the season if the Queensland government stands firm on the flu shot.
It'd be brave of them. Not too many people are willing to fight for what they believe in, and you can't diss anyone for doing what they believe in.
Emma Lawrence for 10 News First.
No making about from the AFL. Every player will be tested for COVID-19, and that started today via drive-through. Players arrived at Melbourne's Marvel Stadium car park to be tested for the virus. A new test kit providing a result within 10 minutes. Across the league, players are expected to be tested by Friday, with squad training to resume early next week. Like their NRL counterparts, however, AFL clubs are bracing for severe staff and budget cuts. Sebastian Vettel will leave Ferrari at the end of the 2020 season, but Aussie Dan Ricciardo is unlikely to get a drive with Formula One's most famous team. With Vettel confirming his departure overnight, Ricciardo's former Red Bull teammate Max Verstappen is tipping McLaren's Carlos Sainz to join Ferrari.
Who do you think's most likely? Someone with an Italian-sounding name or someone with a Spanish name?
I think it's not going to be the Italian-sounding name.
Okay, interesting.
So let's see. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a guess, so we'll have to wait and see.
And Sainz is favoured because he would be happier to play second fiddle to Charles Leclerc, who will be Ferrari's #1 driver. With Ricciardo's Renault contract running out this year, the Australian may end up at McLaren next season. Heavyweight boxer Evander Holyfield is out to prove he's still the real deal. And momentum is building towards a rematch between their former world champ and Mike Tyson. If their training videos are anything to go by, Holyfield may just need to pick up the pace before stepping in the ring again with Iron Mike. But at 57, it's clear Holyfield can still pack a punch. Sandra, he might ask that little bit of ear that he took off him 20 years ago for a back, please.
Oh, just the thought of it. I don't think I want to watch it. It'd be scary. Anyway, thanks, Matt. Coming up next, why thousands of Australian jobs are tonight in the balance.
Our cameras wandered the way of Lavender Bay, and there's a change on the way. The Daily Bailey weather wall will stick its head in the clouds up there, and it's next.
He made us laugh as henpecked Brett on Kath and Kim.
Would it get you the second fight in this?
Crazy. Now Peter Rosethorn's comedy career is on ice because of coronavirus, but he's found a unique way to keep Aussies smiling. Find out how tomorrow on Studio 10.
Yes, it's Timmy time. Mr. Bailey is back. Tim, change is definitely in the air.
Yeah, the clouds that sort of drifted across Sydney today, precursor to a little bit of precipitation tomorrow, folks. But you know what I like? If I can get the rain to fall on a Thursday and Friday and clear things up for your weekend, I am doing my job. Let's hit the Daily Bailey weather wall, the forecast where we get it all, and have a look what's happening. A cold front zipping past southwest WA. Another one has moved through Bass Strait and out into the the Tasman Sea, and a trough clouds things through Queensland down into northern New South Wales, and from the central coast of New South Wales north to the northern rivers is where there'll be a little bit of rain tomorrow. Throw in Sydney with a 90% chance as well. So the weather map tomorrow looks like this. Big high pressure system still dominating the Great Australian Bight. The cold front we lose out into the Tasman Sea, but it's the trough that sneaks down through Queensland and hovers around the coast of New South Wales, the central coast, and that is going to drive some onshore winds and also some rainfall for the next 48 hours. So let's have a look at it. The business of the brolly, predicted precipitation, drips and drops across rooftops and crops, and there you can see from about Sydney north through the central coast up to the northern rivers, southeast Queensland, the Gold Coast, a little bit overcast, downcast and showery. All right, so where do we go to lift our spirits in these days of partial lockdown and isolation? I know where we go. We unlock your phone and look at your genius, your creative work. Have a look at this shot. Loved it. Merimbula. Beautiful part of the world, isn't it? Look at the blue sky, the reflections. And everyone loves a ride in the limo. What about that, folks? That's a way to break isolation. Get in the limo. Turigan, thank you very much. Sharing them on Instagram, hashtagging them, Daily Bailey NSW, and breaking our boredom, taking us somewhere nice rather than just the kitchen and the lounge room. Next up, it's autumn. You want proof? Simply Natural Photography gives us proof. Look at that. The colours of autumn, just delightful on your television set. Hey folks, follow me on Instagram. Pull that phone, I know it's in your hand right now, Daily Bailey 10, and get involved in this club and send me some of your best work. Have a look at this. All right, Cows Are Friends sent me this shot. That is a dog that looks like a sheep having a drink out of the cow trough. What a cracker. Look at that hairdo. Beautiful, beautiful work. Cows Are Friends on Instagram, hashtag Daily Bailey NSW, and follow me on Insta, Daily Bailey 10. It's a whole heap of fun. G'day, Korakai. You're a great looking place with some great looking dudes. It's almost a pood. All right, let's go and find you a forecast around the place tomorrow. The west sparkles, 26 degrees, like a diamond. The Alice says we'll have a bit of that blue sky, 21 degrees. We'll join in the party, says Broome, 33 and brilliant. Darwin a delight at 34 degrees. Cairns probably pulls out the brolly at some stages of the day for 29 degrees, as does Brisbane, 25. Sydney, the same story. Canberra gets away with it though, 3 through to 14 degrees. Mainly a sunny sky. Melbourne 15, a little bit chilly, and Hobart a nice looking autumn day and 16 degrees. New South Wales then zooms into Bales, Tamworth 20 degrees, fine and sunny. Broken Hill 15, it's chilled down but it's clear and it's blue. Dubbo 18 degrees, down to 0 and orange. That means Jack Frost's paying a visit, 12 degrees the maximum. Wagga Wagga 5 through to 16, Canberra 3 to 14. Newcastle, look at these showers from about Nowra through to Lismore, Sydney included. Newcastle 19 degrees, Nowra does 17 and it's a bit showery. Super suburbs of Sydney gets a soaking, maybe a 90% chance of up to 10 millimetres worth. 18 Penrith, Parramatta 17, Bankstown 17, here comes the rain, Richmond 17, 10 at Katoomba. The official forecast for Sydney, it's showery, maybe even rain, up to 10 millimetres, and the 7-day forecast with a little bit of good news in 25 minutes.
Tonight's top stories, a man says sorry to the police officer who shot him. He'd been on an ice-crazed rampage with a knife in Campbelltown. China versus Australia with our farmers caught right in the middle. The beef and dairy trade war that's brewing over the pandemic investigation. And the worst-case scenario for our housing market, the threat of a huge plunge. We'll have that full story shortly. We can show you tonight the moment police shoot a knife-wielding attacker high on ice and on a rampage near Campbelltown train station. It was played out in court today during the sentence hearing for Scott Hampton, who survived the shooting and today apologised to police.
A single gunshot rings out at a busy train station as an officer is forced to shoot a man in front of horrified commuters. Robert Hampton is badly injured but survives. Police saw Hampton running through the gates without a train ticket minutes earlier and chased him. He was on parole at the time, high on ice and carrying a 30-centimetre knife. As he lunged at the officers, one tasered him, but it failed, before a bullet in the stomach brought him to the ground. Hampton has since pleaded guilty to several charges and faced a sentencing hearing today, where he apologised to the officer who shot him, telling the court, "I know it wouldn't have been a good thing for him to have to shoot me. I'm sorry he had to do that." The court heard Hampton spent 3 months in hospital after the shooting and needed surgery to repair his injuries. His defence lawyer argued he deserves leniency because he still suffers from the ongoing effects and wears a colostomy bag, which is difficult to manage in jail. He'll learn his fate on Friday, but the judge has warned she won't be going easy on him. Leah Harris for 10 News First.
It might have left our shores, but it's still having a ripple effect here with another death linked to the Ruby Princess cruise ship. An 81-year-old woman passenger has become the latest to succumb to COVID-19. Just a day after 0 new cases in New South Wales, there have now been another 6, something to be wary of with restrictions about to ease.
They've turned to takeaway, but it's tough and many local watering holes are worried about drying out.
We've probably lost about 95% of income based on these weeks last year.
Cafes and restaurants are just 2 days away from unstacking their chairs to seat up to 10 customers. But pubs and clubs are so far excluded from the easing restrictions.
The difference between a restaurant and a pub is basically the fixtures and fittings and the type of licence. So if they're only allowed to have 10 people in, then why can't I have 10 people in?
Pubs across New South Wales are just after consistency and fairness.
The Premier has acknowledged the industry's frustration.
We are looking at opportunities where there are those venues within a pub situation or a club situation where it's sit-down only.
Authorities are bracing for more cases of COVID-19 as restrictions ease. Today, 6 new cases have been confirmed, taking the state's total to 3,059 with 47 deaths, the latest being an 81-year-old woman who was a passenger on the Ruby Princess ship.
2 months on since this tragic incident, and we have a minister who refuses to take any form of accountability.
As that fallout continues, families are falling back into the school routine, albeit a staggered one.
We've been coming every day. He doesn't like online learning.
We play handball outside at recess and lunch.
As schools balance the fluctuating student numbers and social distancing needs, it seems some are so ready for a full-time return, one principal has had to send out a gentle reminder. A great deal of planning has gone into this. Please contact the school if there is a need to increase your child's number of days.
That after next week, there is a strong chance that the vast majority of students will be back to face full-time learning.
That's sure to get a big tick from many families. Alice Hogg for 10 News First.
The man accused of murdering Scott Johnson in a homophobic attack will remain behind bars for at least a month. But it's been a long journey for the victim's family, and the arrest would never have happened without the efforts of a devoted brother and the then police minister.
Arresting now accused murderer Scott White involved a complex 2-year police investigation.
They just worked for hours upon hours and solved this case.
And 3 extensive coronial inquests.
Scott Johnson died as a result of a gay hate attack.
Unfortunately, like many other gay men in the 1980s, he got tragically unlucky.
But an arrest never would have happened without the tenacity of Steve Johnson, Scott's brother, who had the backing of the then police minister.
This was a grieving family. We're looking for answers, and we're looking for a police force and indeed a state to listen.
The Johnsons had hired their own investigative team that looked into homophobic attacks across Sydney and uncovered evidence that forced New South Wales Police to reopen the case.
It's fair to say that some elements of the police force only a few years ago refuted our view that there should at least be a fresh set of eyes look at this matter. But of course, the results of the last 24 hours vindicate the position that we took.
White will remain behind bars until at least his next appearance in July. And while this does not correct the wrongs of the past, it does in some way begin to heal those deep wounds felt within the gay community.
And that gives us great hope that the future looks like a more just future for our communities.
Kimberly Pratt for 10 News First.
The jobs of thousands of workers hang in the balance tonight with fears of an escalating trade tension with China. 3 abattoirs in Queensland and 1 here in New South Wales have been blacklisted by our largest trading partner. It's in a move that could cripple communities already struggling through this pandemic.
The cattle trucks are still rolling into Kilcoy, but where the red meat will go now is anyone's guess after the abattoir was slapped with an import ban by China. It's the town's largest employer, 1,200 jobs now at stake.
And it would be devastating, in my view, devastating if all this goes ahead.
More than a third of Australia's beef exports to China come from the blacklisted meatworks in Kilcoy, Dinmore, Toowoomba and Casino. Exports now in limbo after China also flagged plans to introduce an 80% tariff on Australian barley. The coronavirus has already hit Kilcoy's retail trade hard. Shopkeepers say the last thing the town needs is more uncertainty.
It would be a big impact, onto small businesses.
China says the ban is over labelling issues, but many believe it's in retaliation to the Prime Minister's call for an inquiry into the origins of the COVID-19 outbreak. And now a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman has specifically accused Australia of using the epidemic to engage in political manipulation. Canberra is seeking urgent talks with our biggest international beef customer, and so far they've failed to pick up the phone.
We're going to keep doing everything we possibly can.
Premier Palaszczuk writing to the Trade Minister and Scott Morrison seeking a quick resolution.
And if we go into a full-blown trade war, this could mean over 3,200 workers impacted. This is really serious.
But experts say that could be months away.
By the time you get the right people talking and you get the right decision and they work out what they're doing and the way forward that both sides can win, it can be a couple of months, unfortunately.
With beef Queensland's largest agricultural export, that's time we simply can't afford to lose. Brendan Savage for 10 News First.
Australia's Chief Medical Officer warned today that the world hasn't seen the worst of the COVID-19 nightmare just yet, reinforcing the need for Australia to stay on top of the virus or risk another lockdown.
We have a roadmap out.
That's the plan for taking us forward.
But it's by no means an easy escape.
Nobody in the world knows the road out of this. That's why we're very closely watching what happens as restrictions are released.
The Chief Medical Officer today questioned about the very real threat of losing the big gains we've made.
Is there a trigger for which restrictions will come back in?
There is no one trigger. Well, total case numbers is not necessarily a trigger. It's the capacity to control the outbreaks that's the defining thing that we're watching.
Also being watched closely is the Kawasaki illness. The PM has ordered an urgent investigation into the mysterious COVID-19 linked virus, which only affects children.
Because it's so rare, it's unlikely to be seen in Australia, but we've got alerts on it and we're clearly watching it.
Professor Murphy telling a Senate committee that globally the worst of coronavirus is still ahead of us, which is why international travel won't be allowed anytime soon.
We're in a good position, but only, as I said to Senator Di Natale, we'll be able to maintain that by keeping strong border measures.
And as leading health experts suggest, financial distress and isolation could lead to more deaths than the virus itself, the government has appointed its first Deputy Chief Medical Officer for Mental Health to lead a new pandemic plan.
To help save lives and protect lives during what is a difficult period.
Not just now, but in the months and years ahead. Amber Austin-Wright for 10 News First.
We have some breaking news now, and the Queensland Government has just announced it wants to buy Virgin. In his first move as Treasurer, Cameron Dick has appointed a team to work on a bid to secure the airline. Now, Virgin went into administration last month, crippled by the corona pandemic with debts of almost $7 billion. Staff remain stood down while a buyer for the besieged company is found. Expressions of interest close on Friday. A truck driver has tonight handed himself into police over a terrifying road rage duel that could have caused carnage on the Hume Highway near Campbelltown. The high-speed contest happened last Saturday morning, and police are still searching for the other driver involved.
Yes, the footage is extremely disturbing. You'll be able to see as we roll it that a truck is blocking the right-hand lane. He doesn't pull over, and a ute comes up the breakdown lane and tries to make what is a very dangerous manoeuvre to take over, and it almost ends in tragedy.
Sadly, so far this year, 118 lives lost, and this event could have quite easily added to these very sad and tragic numbers on our roads.
This section of the Hume Highway is just south of Sydney. This incident occurred heading southbound. We spoke to some other truckies in this area who say, well, this is not uncommon and it's something they'd like to see stamped out.
It's wrong, it definitely is wrong. When somebody's passing like that, if they're getting past you, as soon as they get their cab in front of you, back off a bit, just let them get going.
It's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Madness, isn't it?
Crazy.
Police say this type of incident, unfortunately, is not as uncommon as you might think, and they're certainly appealing for drivers to take care on our roads.
Coming up next here on 10 News First, a dire prediction for Sydney's housing market. In sport, the Titans captain urges the anti-vaxxers to get a lawyer. And a legend on two wheels about to tackle Bathurst using four.
He was very lonely because they couldn't have a baby. Do you want to say hello to your little boy?
He looks like me.
My baby could be anywhere. Do something about it.
The police have made the call to release this CCTV footage to the media.
Well, that's a good thing, right?
We don't want her to panic.
The secrets she keeps. Tonight after MasterChef.
Last April, 1.7 million people came to Australia for a holiday, for business or on their journey home. Fast forward a year and that number looks very different. Charlotte Goodlett has the day in finance, including a dire prediction about house prices.
With border restrictions across the world, we know at the moment there's no such thing as a tourism hotspot. But new data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics shows just how enormous the drop-off in overseas arrivals has been. This April, a whopping 99% decrease. Only 22,000 people arrived. More than two-thirds of them were Aussies returning home, while just under 7,000 were non-citizens. And as we know, tourism, well, it is big bucks. Last year, we had 9.5 million international visitors come to Australia and they spent more than $45 billion. So for now, that has pretty much vanished. Now, some interesting data out from Australia's biggest home lender, Commonwealth Bank, today. It's warning of a potential 32% house price crash by the end of 2022. It should be noted, however, that that is the bank's worst case scenario, and it is based on unemployment remaining high for the next few years and there being a deep recession. Speaking of CBA, it finished the day up despite setting aside $1.5 billion due to the impact of COVID-19. It's also sold a majority stake in Colonial First State. The ASX, it fell sharply at the open. It was pulled down by a number of factors, tensions with China and also a poor performance in the US overnight. It did rally, however, and at the close it finished up 0.3%. Right now the Australian dollar is buying 64.8 US cents.
Matt Burke is back now with a look at the rest of the day in sport. And Matt, the Gold Coast Titans anti-vax duo, well, they finally found an ally.
They have, Sandra, indeed, and it comes in the form of club captain Ryan James, who's called their decision brave. Titans officials want a decision by tomorrow on whether Bryce Cartwright and Brian Kelly will have the injections or risk not getting paid.
The vaccination debate has become a heavy issue for the Titans.
You've got to, take everyone as they are, and you can't treat everyone the same, and everyone isn't the same. Everyone are different people and have different beliefs.
But the clock is ticking for Bryce Cartwright and Brian Kelly. The club's imposed deadline to get inoculated lapses tomorrow. Their injured captain standing by them, even if it escalates into a legal battle.
It'd be brave of them. Not too many people are willing to fight for what they believe in, and you can't diss anyone for doing what they believe in.
But it might cost the Titans and the rest of the competition, with Queensland home games potentially shifting south to allow those without flu shots to play and avoid state government requirements.
Those players just wouldn't be able to play in Queensland. I don't know how it would work, but I don't think you would be able to take those games away from Queensland because and you don't get any home games.
They're not the only club struggling with the issue. The Raiders unsure if their unvaccinated trio should have to put the team first.
We thought a lot worse than my body with beer and stuff like that, so I ain't really one of them commenting, so I'll leave it to them, mate. It's their personal choice.
While there's greater concern at South Sydney following James Roberts' latest admission into rehab.
I'm very proud of James and what he's done. He realised the situation he was in, and he's reached out for help, and we're very happy that he's getting the help that he's needed.
And New South Wales Police have caught up with Nathan Cleary, fining him $1,000 for breaching social distancing laws 2 weeks after lying about the circumstances of a TikTok video. Meanwhile, Josh Adokar plans to fight his fines after his infamous camping trip in Taree. Veronica Eggleton for 10 News First.
Motor racing legend Mick Doohan says Space Invaders is the only computer game he's played, but competitive instincts will kick in when he takes on Bathurst and a host of other celebrities in a Supercars E-Series challenge on Monday. The 5-time world motorcycle champion will line up against the likes of Toby Price and Jack Rewaltz. Doohan won the 1988 Australian Grand Prix at Bathurst before it moved to Phillip Island.
I had a lot of fun there. When you were young, you didn't really sort of understand the consequences of hitting the wall around the place like that. So, in a car today, even on a computer screen, it seems quite dangerous.
Now, Mick has been getting tips from son Jack, who's already had a turn in the Supercars E-Series. That competition tonight features F1 ace Lando Norris, Craig Lowndes, Will Power and Garth Tander as guest drivers, and coverage tonight on 10 Play at 7 p.m. Now, if you love golf, you'll understand this. AFL great Nick Del Santo teed off at a stroke after midnight. And why? Well, Victoria joined the rest of the country in allowing courses to reopen. The former St Kilda and North Melbourne star rose well before the Kangaroos and says he shot a decent score despite not seeing too much. So, for getting up and down at such an ungodly hour, Del Santo holds our play of the day. Probably would have been a quick round too, Sandra, as well.
Exactly. All right. Thank you, Matt. Stay with us. Up next, Mr Bailey's back with your 7-day weather forecast.
Notice because we've never had so much money.
Call my budget today.
Creating the ultimate memories sometimes means creating the toughest stains. Improved Omo Ultimate is Omo's most powerful laundry liquid. It attacks your tough stains first time and whitens and brightens. Try Omo Ultimate.
Hester is a super fund that supports people whose work helps others. Their stories inspire us to give them a stronger financial future and a better world to retire into. It's our way of saying thank you.
Up next, the cracks start to show in the government's JobKeeper policy. So will the lifeline be cut short? Could COVID-19 have an unexpected positive impact on society's overall health? And we recognise delivery drivers as tonight's unsung heroes. Project next.
A low-pressure trough is about to arrange a change as we plug into the Daily Bailey Weather Wall, the forecast where we get it all, and have a look at what is happening across the wide brown land. Big high-pressure system dominates the bite. Little trough starts to settle itself down in
on the central coast, basically, and that's going to bring some precipitation to Sydney tomorrow. 90% chance of maybe 2 to 10 millimetres worth, spreading all the way from Nowra through Sydney up to Gosford and into the Northern Rivers area. Trough through Queensland as well, and a little cold front has moved through southwestern WA. All right, let's have a look at New South Wales tomorrow, and by the coast it's going to be a moist one. Lismore does 21 degrees and a shower. Coffs Harbour down to 13 for a maximum of 21, and you'll need your umbrella. Tamworth unfortunately misses out on the rain as it sticks to the coast. 20 degrees the max, fine and sunny. Newcastle gets damp, 19 degrees. Sydney likewise 18 degrees. Nowra 17, a bit of a chill. It'll be grey and wet, and Bega gets away with 18 degrees, fine and sunny. Canberra 3 to 14 degrees. West of the Divide, an absolutely glorious looking autumn day. Broken Hill, a bit of a chill, but the sky crystal clear and blue, 15 degrees. Dubbo delightful, 18. Jack Frost visits Orange, down to 0 for a top of 1 dozen, an entire dozen, and fine and sunny. And Wagga Wagga 5 through to 16 degrees. That takes care of that. The super soaking suburbs of Sydney tomorrow. As you can see, the wind comes out of the south and the rain comes out of the clouds. Where else would it come from? Parramatta 17 degrees showery. Bankstown likewise. Richmond 17 and showers. Gosford 17. It's chilly at Terry Hill, 16 degrees. Sydney does 18 and Mascot 18 degrees. And it's a wee bit wet. OK, Friday 19 and a shower. Saturday looks better than that says. Blue sky and the odd cloud, 20 and 21 degrees. And the weekend in the west looks to be very good looking. Saturday 19 degrees and Sunday 20 degrees. So that's the weather.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailey. That is the news for now this Wednesday, May 13. From the team, look after yourselves and each other. We'll see you tomorrow night. Cheers.
Tonight, Beijing suspends Aussie imports after we called for an investigation into the origins of COVID-19. But is now really the time to start a trade war?
The cracks start to show in the government's JobKeeper policy. So will the lifeline be cut short?
Could COVID-19 have an